You know, it seems like every time I open up the news app, there's another cybersecurity headline.
Yeah.
It's like this
Yeah.
constant barrage of new threats, new technologies promising solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it can be a bit overwhelming.
It really can.
But I think that's why we're all here today.
Yeah.
Our goal is to really cut through all that confusion
Absolutely.
and to give you a clear understanding of the most critical aspects of the cybersecurity landscape in 2024 and 2025.
We've got a stack of really insightful information here that we've compiled.
Yeah.
And the goal is to give you a shortcut to getting a handle on what really matters.
Oh, okay.
We're not going to just be throwing statistics at you.
Right.
We really want to kind of connect the dots
Yeah.
and make sense of, this rapidly evolving world.
So let's get right into it, I guess.
It's
The sheer scale of cybercrime is, frankly,
It's
staggering.
wild.
By next year, 2025, the global cost is projected to hit $10.5 trillion
Wow.
annually.
10.5 trillion.
To put that in perspective.
That's more than the entire GDP of most countries.
Yeah, it's hard to even wrap your head around a number that big.
And it's not a static problem. It's growing by about 15% every year.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think really kind of drives it home, that this isn't just like a tech issue. It's a massive economic force that's shaping our world.
Right. And to really understand the weight of this, let's zero in on the economic impact for a moment. In 2024, the average cost of a single data breach jumped to $4.88 million.
Wow.
That's a 10% increase from the year before. Just imagine the ripple effect that kind of financial hit can have on a business.
Oh, absolutely. And that average only tells part of the story.
Right. When we look at ransomware, which is, where attackers essentially hold your data hostage, the financial demands are even more extreme.
Yeah.
In 2023, the average ransom payment nearly doubled to over $1.5 million. It's no wonder ransomware is so rampant. Nearly 73% of organizations reported experiencing an attack that year.
And if you think those annoying phishing emails are a thing of the past, think again. With the rise of what's called generative AI, think of it as AI that can create incredibly realistic text.
Right.
We saw a mind-blowing 1,265% increase in phishing attacks.
Gosh.
These AI-powered emails are getting so sophisticated with perfect grammar and a real understanding of context that it makes them incredibly difficult to spot.
Yeah, the days of looking for typos and grammatical errors are long gone.
Right.
These things are very, very convincing.
And let's not forget the sheer volume of attacks happening every single day. In 2023, there were an average of 44,000 DDoS attacks launched daily. That's a distributed denial of service.
Wow. It's like a digital traffic jam designed to shut down websites and services just to cripple them.
Yeah, so these numbers, they're really eye-opening. And and the pain points vary depending on the industry. So let's take healthcare, for example. An area where data privacy is paramount, the average cost of a data breach in this sector reached almost $11 million in 2023, more than double the overall average. It really highlights the incredibly high value of sensitive health information on the dark web.
Absolutely. Criminals know that information is worth a lot of money, and so they're going to target it.
Right. And it's not just healthcare feeling. The Heat Financial Services accounted for over a quarter of the data breaches handled by one firm, Kroll, in 2023, up significantly from the previous year. So it's clear that, the financial sector remains a top target for cybercriminals.
It's always been a target, but it just seems like they're focusing more and more on it these days.
So how exactly are these attacks getting in? What are the most common doorways that cybercriminals are using?
Well, the data consistently shows that email remains the primary entry point. A staggering 94% of malware that's malicious software designed to harm your systems is delivered via email. So those warnings you hear about being cautious with suspicious emails, they are absolutely crucial.
That's almost unbelievable that something we use every day is still such a huge vulnerability. What other avenues are attackers exploiting?
Well, cloud environments are becoming increasingly popular targets.
Yeah.
We saw a 75% jump in cloud intrusions in 2023, and what's concerning is that nearly a quarter of those were due to simple misconfigurations, basically mistakes in how the cloud services were set up, leaving the door wide open. This really underscores the need for careful and correct cloud security practices.
Right.
We also can't ignore the growing threat of supply chain attacks in 2023. Almost 2/3 of organizations experienced a breach that originated from their suppliers or partners. It's a stark reminder that your security is only as strong as the weakest link in your network.
It sounds like this isn't just, a few isolated individuals behind these attacks anymore.
No, you're right. We're seeing a well-organized and sophisticated cybercrime underworld.
Yeah.
Something called ransomware as a service, or RADAs, has made it much easier for people with limited technical skills to launch ransomware attacks.
So they don't even have to know how to create the ransomware themselves.
Exactly. Think of it like franchising cybercrime. The developers create the ransomware and others rent it out to carry out attacks with the profits being shared.
Oh.
Then you have these dark web marketplaces where stolen data hacking tools and even instructions on how to exploit vulnerabilities are bought and sold.
It's like its own economy.
It is. It's a huge economy, and
Yeah.
it's generating millions of dollars.
So it paints a pretty concerning picture, but is there any positive news on the financial front? Are companies actually investing in cybersecurity, and is it making a difference?
Yes. Thankfully, there is some good news. Global spending on information security is projected to reach over $188 billion in 2024.
Wow.
More importantly, the data suggests that these investments are paying off. Organizations that are heavily using security tools powered by AI and automation are seeing significant savings. They averaged over $2.2 million less in cost per data breach compared to those who aren't leveraging these technologies. So while the overall cost of cybercrime is massive, strategic investments in the right security measures can lead to substantial cost avoidance in the long run.
That's a really important point. So we've looked at, the scale of the problem, the financial damage, and the common ways attackers are getting in now. Can we talk about some specific examples of major data breaches that have happened recently? Let's make this feel a little more real.
Absolutely. Looking at real-world incidents really helps to illustrate the tangible consequences of these cyber threats.
Yeah.
Let's start with loanDepot in January of 2024.
Okay.
They were hit by a ransomware attack that affected about 16.6 million customers, and incredibly sensitive information like social security numbers and financial data was exposed. The costs associated with this attack reached almost $27 million. A key lesson from this is the absolute necessity of having strong backup systems in place and well-practiced plans for how to respond when an attack happens.
So they weren't prepared.
Well, it seems like they weren't as prepared as they could have been.
That's a stark reminder that even large, well-established companies can be vulnerable. Well, it's another significant example.
In February 2024, we saw a really impactful attack on Change Healthcare, which is a major provider of healthcare payment processing in the U.S.
I've heard of them.
This ransomware attack not only resulted in a $22 million ransom payment, but also led to what's believed to be the largest data breach of U.S. healthcare records, affecting around 100 million individuals.
Oh.
The disruption to healthcare services across the country was widespread and lasted for weeks. This really highlighted how critical cybersecurity is for our healthcare infrastructure and the potential for massive societal impact.
That incident really sent ripples throughout the entire healthcare system. What about breaches in other sectors?
Well, in May 2024, Metasecure, an Australian company that handled electronic prescriptions, suffered a ransomware attack that exposed the health information of 12.9 million people. Tragically, the company ended up going into voluntary administration, a form of bankruptcy, after reportedly being denied government funding to help with their recovery efforts.
Wow.
This really underscores the severe long-term financial damage that can result from these kinds of attacks and raises questions about the role of government support for critical infrastructure.
These are all incredibly serious situations. Have there been any direct attacks on essential services or infrastructure?
Yes. In August of 2024, the Port of Seattle was targeted by a ransomware group known as Reseda. This attack caused significant delays and disruptions to travel during a major holiday weekend, demonstrating how vulnerable critical infrastructure like transportation hubs can be to cyber attacks and the potential for real-world chaos.
Oh my gosh, that's deeply concerning. What about any breaches that might have had implications for national security?
Also, in August 2024, we saw a truly massive incident, a national public data breach that compromised the personal information of an estimated 2.9 billion individuals.
2.9 billion.
This included very sensitive data like names, addresses, dates of birth, phone numbers, and even social security numbers. Given the sheer scale and the type of data involved, this raises very serious national security concerns and really emphasizes the importance of collecting and retaining only the data you absolutely need, a concept known as data minimization.
Billions of records. It's hard to even imagine that volume of compromised information. Were there any attacks targeting companies in the financial technology space?
Indeed, in October 2024, Finastra, a major fintech company, experienced a data breach where a massive 400 gigabytes of sensitive client information was stolen after hackers managed to access their secure file transfer system. This attack was attributed to a sophisticated group called Abyss, who then attempted to sell the stolen data on underground cybercrime forums. This highlights the persistent threat posed by these advanced hacking groups and the critical need to secure all data transfer methods.
It really does seem like the healthcare sector continues to be a major target.
Unfortunately, that's true in January of 2025. Medicine, a company that provides medical billing services, disclosed a breach that affected 360,000 individuals, exposing their personal and health information. This incident, which actually occurred the previous December, sadly reinforces the ongoing vulnerabilities within healthcare data management and the continuous need for vigilance.
It's like they're under constant attack.
It seems that way.
And finally, are there any recent examples that highlight the risks that come from relying on other companies for services what we call supply chain risks?
Absolutely. Just this past February in 2025, Grubhub experienced a data breach that compromised the personal information of their customers, merchants, and drivers. What's particularly concerning here is that the attackers gained access through a compromised account belonging to one of Grubhub's service providers. This really underscores the significant risks that come with relying on third-party vendors and the critical importance of having strong processes in place to manage and oversee the security of those vendors.
So really vetting them carefully.
Absolutely.
These examples are really eye-opening and make the threats we've been discussing, feel much more tangible.
Yeah, I think it's important to see how these things actually play out in the real world.
Now, looking ahead, what are some of the emerging threats that should be on our radar? What's the next wave of challenges we need to be prepared for?
Well, the cybersecurity landscape is constantly shifting, and we're seeing some worrying new trends. One major area is the rise of attacks powered by artificial intelligence.
AI.
This includes AI being used to create incredibly convincing phishing emails that are much harder for people to distinguish from legitimate messages. AI is also being leveraged to automatically discover weaknesses in software at a very rapid pace and scale.
Right.
And perhaps most unsettling is the development of deepfake technology, which can be used for highly effective social engineering attacks, where criminals can convincingly impersonate trusted individuals using audio and video.
That sounds like something out of a spy movie.
Yeah.
What other potential threats are on the horizon?
Well, while still in the relatively early stages, the potential threat from quantum computing is significant.
Okay.
Quantum computers, in theory, will have the ability to break much of the current encryption that protects our digital communications and data, including widely used methods like RSA and ECC.
Oh, wow.
Organizations are beginning to explore something called post-quantum cryptography,
Okay.
new encryption methods that are designed to be resistant to attacks from quantum computers to prepare for this future vulnerability.
That's a longer-term but potentially game-changing threat.
Right.
What about more immediate concerns that we're likely to see in the near future?
Well, we're seeing the continued evolution of advanced persistent threats, or APTs.
Okay.
These are typically sophisticated, often state-sponsored or highly skilled cybercriminal groups.
Yep.
They are increasingly focusing on targeting the supply chain, compromising one organization to gain access to many others connected to it. They are also using what are known as living off the land techniques, which involve using legitimate software and tools already present on a system to carry out their malicious activities, making them much harder to detect because their actions blend in with normal system operations.
So they're becoming even more stealthy. What about the increasing number of everyday devices that are connected to the internet?
Yeah, that's a huge concern. The rapid growth of the Internet of Things, or IoT devices, everything from smart thermostats to connected appliances, and the rollout of faster 5G networks are creating new avenues for attack.
Right.
We're seeing the rise of large networks of compromised IoT devices, known as botnets, being used for things like launching massive DDoS attacks or even secretly mining cryptocurrency. And the increased speed and capacity of 5G could potentially amplify the impact of certain types of cyber attacks.
It feels like everything being connected creates more potential targets. What about the shift to cloud computing? Are there new vulnerabilities emerging there?
Yes. As more organizations move their data and applications to the cloud, we're seeing new cloud-specific security challenges. Attackers are developing techniques for what are called container escapes.
Okay.
Think of cloud applications as running in isolated boxes called containers. A container escape is when an attacker finds a way to break out of that isolated box and gain access to the underlying cloud system, potentially compromising everything else hosted there.
Wow.
We're also seeing security issues specific to serverless computing, where applications are broken down into very small independent functions. This introduces its own set of potential vulnerabilities at the level of those individual functions.
And ransomware seems to be constantly evolving and becoming more aggressive, doesn't it?
Unfortunately, that's true. Ransomware attacks are no longer just about encrypting data. We're
Right.
seeing the rise of double extortion,
Oh, right.
where attackers not only encrypt your files, but also steal sensitive data and threaten to leak it publicly if the ransom isn't paid.
Oh, gosh.
Some groups are even using triple extortion tactics, where they add further pressure by directly targeting an organization's customers or partners. And as we discussed earlier, the continued growth of ransomware as a service is making it easier for more criminals to get involved.
It feels like the attackers are always one step ahead. What about more traditional web application vulnerabilities? Are those still a significant concern?
Absolutely. As organizations increasingly rely on application programming interfaces or APIs to connect different services and applications, weaknesses in these APIs are becoming prime targets for attackers. We're also seeing a rise in sophisticated attacks that target the user's web browser directly, such as form jacking, where attackers steal credit card details from payment forms on websites, and what are known as Magcart-style breaches, which involve injecting malicious code into e-commerce sites to steal customer information.
And we can't forget the human element in all of this. People are often the weakest link, aren't they?
That's right. Social engineering and attacks that exploit human psychology remain a critical threat. We're seeing the emergence of what are being called hybrid warfare tactics,
Okay.
which combine cyber attacks with disinformation campaigns to manipulate public opinion or disrupt organizations, and targeted spear phishing attacks, which are highly personalized and designed to trick specific individuals, are becoming increasingly sophisticated and difficult to spot.
It sounds like something we're all going to have to be more and more aware of in the future.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on.
So finally, with the growing popularity of cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, are there new security risks associated with those?
Yes. The increasing adoption of these technologies has brought its own set of security challenges. We're seeing attacks that exploit vulnerabilities in the code of smart contracts, the self-executing agreements on blockchain platforms leading to the theft of cryptocurrency, and the manipulation of decentralized finance or DeFi platforms, and cryptojacking, which is the unauthorized use of someone else's computing power to mine cryptocurrency, continues to be a persistent threat.
So much to keep track of.
It's a lot, but it's important to stay informed.
Now let's talk about one of the most significant developments in this ongoing battle. Artificial intelligence itself.
Yeah.
It's kind of a double-edged sword in cybersecurity, isn't it?
Absolutely. AI and machine learning offer incredible potential for strengthening our defenses, but they also create new opportunities for attackers.
Right.
On the defensive side, AI is exceptionally good at analyzing massive amounts of data to identify unusual patterns that might indicate a cyber threat. It can automate the process of threat hunting, actively searching for malicious activity that might otherwise go unnoticed. And AI can also be used for predictive analytics, helping organizations to anticipate future attack trends and proactively bolster their defenses.
So AI is helping us find the needles in the haystack and even predict where the next haystack might appear. What about more routine security tasks?
Well, AI is also having a significant impact on vulnerability management.
Okay.
AI-powered tools can continuously scan networks and applications for known weaknesses, and importantly, they can prioritize these vulnerabilities based on how critical they are and how easily they could be exploited by attackers.
AI can also assist with patch management, helping to determine which software updates are most crucial to apply quickly.
That sounds like a huge time saver and a real boost for security teams. What about the day-to-day operations in a security operations center, where they're constantly dealing with alerts and potential incidents?
Well, AI is proving to be extremely valuable in these security operations centers.
Okay.
It can automate the initial process of triaging security alerts, essentially sifting through the huge number of alerts that come in and filtering out the less important ones, so human analysts can focus on the genuine threats. And in some cases, AI can even automate parts of the incident response process, such as isolating a computer that's been infected or blocking malicious network traffic.
So AI is really augmenting and automating a lot of critical security functions, but as you said, it's a double-edged sword. What are some of the downsides and challenges of using AI in cybersecurity?
Well, one challenge is the issue of false positives.
While AI systems are powerful, they can sometimes incorrectly flag legitimate activity as suspicious, which can lead to wasted time and what's known as alert fatigue for security teams. Also, the effectiveness of AI models heavily depends on the quality and the amount of data they are trained on, and perhaps most concerning is the rise of adversarial AI.
Okay.
This is where attackers develop specific techniques to try and trick or mislead AI security systems.
So kind of fighting fire with fire.
In a way, yes.
We touched on this earlier when we were talking about AI-powered attacks. So the same technology we're using to defend ourselves can also be turned against us.
Exactly. Cybercriminals are already leveraging AI to create more convincing phishing attacks, to automate the discovery of software weaknesses they can exploit, and to craft more sophisticated social engineering campaigns using those deepfake technologies we mentioned.
It's a constant arms race.
It really is a technological arms race.
Looking to the future, what are some of the trends we can expect to see in the world of AI and cybersecurity?
Well, we're likely to see a greater emphasis on what's called explainable AI. This means AI systems will be able to provide clear and understandable reasons for their security decisions, making them more transparent and building trust in their actions.
Makes sense.
Federated learning, which allows AI models to be trained on data from many different sources without actually sharing the raw data itself, thus preserving privacy, could become more common. And the eventual intersection of quantum computing and AI, sometimes called quantum AI, has the potential to lead to significant breakthroughs in both cryptography and in the ability to detect and analyze threats.
That's fascinating, if a little intimidating to think about.
It's definitely a lot to consider.
For organizations that are looking to incorporate AI into their cybersecurity strategies, what are some key best practices they should keep in mind?
Well, it's really important to approach AI implementation in a step-by-step manner, starting with specific security problems that AI is well suited to solve. It's also crucial to maintain human oversight of AI systems.
Right.
AI should be seen as a tool to assist human experts, not a complete replacement.
It's not about replacing jobs.
Exactly. It's about making those jobs easier and more effective.
Right.
Ensuring that the data used to train AI models is high quality and representative of the environment it will be used in is paramount. Organizations need to stay constantly updated on the latest advancements and threats in both AI and cybersecurity.
So staying informed is key.
Absolutely.
That's some really valuable advice. Now, let's switch gears and talk about another area that has become increasingly critical in recent years: cloud environments. Many organizations are moving their operations to the cloud. What are the unique security challenges they face in this new environment?
Well, moving to the cloud offers a lot of advantages, but it also introduces a distinct set of security challenges.
Okay.
One of the most significant is the risk of data breaches.
Right.
The very nature of the cloud, where data is often stored in centralized locations, makes it a prime target for cybercriminals. Then there's the persistent issue of misconfiguration. Cloud platforms are very complex, and simple mistakes in how they are set up can inadvertently create significant security holes, insider threats, whether intentional or accidental. Also pose a risk in cloud environments where employees or contractors have access to sensitive resources.
So it's not just about external hackers. We also need to consider risks from within. What other challenges do organizations face in the cloud?
While many organizations struggle with a lack of complete visibility and control over their data and resources in the cloud, especially if they're using multiple cloud providers or a mix of cloud and on-premises infrastructure, meeting various compliance and regulatory requirements can also become more complex in the cloud. And a really common pitfall is misunderstanding the shared responsibility model.
Right.
Many companies mistakenly believe that their cloud provider handles all aspects of security, which isn't the case, leading to gaps in their own security measures.
That shared responsibility model is a really critical concept that a lot of people don't fully grasp. So what are some of the key security tools and best practices that organizations can put in place to protect their cloud environments?
There are several essential security measures. Cloud Access Security Brokers, or CASBs, think of them as security checkpoints for cloud applications, provide a central way to monitor and enforce security policies across all your cloud services.
Okay.
Strong identity and access management, or IAM, is crucial for controlling who has access to what in the cloud and implementing the principle of least privilege, meaning users only have the necessary permissions to do their jobs.
Makes sense.
Data encryption, both when data is being transmitted to and from the cloud and when it's stored at rest, is a fundamental security practice. Cloud Security Posture Management, or CSPM tools, continuously monitor your cloud configurations and help you identify and fix any security risks or compliance violations.
Those all sound like foundational elements. What else should organizations be thinking about for cloud security?
As more organizations use containers, those isolated environments for running applications in the cloud, implementing container security measures like scanning container images for vulnerabilities and protecting them during runtime, is vital. Cloud workload protection platforms, or CWPPs, provide security for various types of workloads in the cloud, including virtual machines, containers, and serverless functions, often across multiple cloud providers.
Oh.
Integrating a security information and event management system, or SIM, which acts like a central log and analysis hub for all your security-related events that is specifically designed for the cloud, is also crucial. Continuous compliance monitoring helps ensure that you are always meeting the necessary regulatory requirements.
And are there any more overarching architectural approaches to cloud security?
Well, adopting a zero-trust architecture in the cloud is a very effective strategy.
Okay.
This approach operates on the principle of never trust, always verify, meaning every user and device trying to access resources must be authenticated and authorized, regardless of where they are located. This often involves multi-factor authentication and breaking down the network into smaller, more secure segments called micro-segmentation.
So it's kind of like putting up multiple layers of security.
Exactly.
Okay.
And finally, ongoing cloud security training for all employees is essential to build a security-aware culture within the organization.
It sounds like a multi-layered approach is really the key to securing the cloud.
Yeah.
Are there any emerging trends in cloud security that we should be keeping an eye on?
Yes, the field is constantly evolving. We're seeing a growing focus on serverless security as more organizations adopt this model of computing. AI and machine learning are being increasingly integrated into cloud security solutions to improve threat detection and automated response. With the rise of edge computing processing data closer to where it's generated, securing these distributed cloud environments is becoming a higher priority. And as we discussed earlier, preparing for the potential impact of quantum computing by exploring quantum-safe cryptography in the cloud is also gaining traction.
So much change.
It's constant, but it's exciting too.
You mentioned a case study earlier about a company that successfully implemented cloud security measures. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Certainly, we looked at a fictional company we called Company X, which is a large financial services firm. They significantly enhanced their cloud security by implementing a comprehensive CASB solution, adopting a zero-trust security model, deploying CSPM tools for continuous monitoring of their cloud environment, and investing in regular cloud security training for their employees as a result of these measures. They saw a significant decrease in cloud-related security incidents and were able to achieve full compliance with all the relevant industry regulations. It really demonstrates the tangible benefits of taking a proactive and comprehensive approach to cloud security.
That's a great real-world illustration.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to another really important area that underpins so much of cybersecurity regulatory compliance. What are some of the key frameworks and regulations that organizations need to be aware of in this space?
Well, the regulatory landscape in cybersecurity is quite complex and varies depending on the industry a company operates in and the geographic locations where it does business. Some of the key frameworks you'll hear about include the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, which is a major European law focused on protecting the personal data of individuals within the EU and has had a significant global impact on how organizations handle data.
Right.
In the United States, the California Consumer Privacy Act, or CCPA, gives California residents certain rights over their personal information and has served as a model for similar laws in other U.S. states.
Okay.
The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or IIPA, is specific to the U.S. healthcare industry and sets standards for protecting sensitive patient health information. The Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, or PCI DSS, applies to any organization that handles credit card information. And for publicly traded companies in the U.S., the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, or SOX, requires internal controls for financial reporting, which includes the security of their IT systems.
These are all really significant pieces of legislation and industry standards. How do these compliance frameworks actually influence the cybersecurity practices within an organization?
Well, they have a very broad impact.
Okay.
Regulations like GDPR and CCPA have driven organizations to implement stronger data protection and privacy measures, such as encrypting sensitive data, implementing stricter access controls, and limiting the amount of personal data they collect and retain.
Right.
Many regulations mandate that organizations have plans in place for responding to and reporting data breaches in a timely manner.
Okay.
Compliance often requires organizations to conduct regular risk assessments and adopt structured approaches to identify and mitigate potential cybersecurity risks.
Makes sense.
The need to carefully manage the security of third-party vendors has also become much more important due to these frameworks. Furthermore, many regulations require organizations to provide regular security awareness and training to their employees, and they need to maintain detailed documentation and audit trails to demonstrate that they are meeting the required standards.
It sounds like compliance really touches almost every aspect of an organization's cybersecurity efforts. What are some of the biggest hurdles that organizations face when trying to achieve and maintain compliance with these regulations?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is the sheer complexity of the regulatory landscape.
Yeah.
It's constantly evolving with new laws and updates being introduced frequently.
Right.
Implementing and maintaining compliance can also be very resource intensive, requiring significant investments in time, money, and personnel. Integrating compliance-driven security measures with existing technology systems, especially older legacy systems, can be a significant technical hurdle for organizations that operate globally. Navigating the different and sometimes conflicting regulations across various countries can be a major challenge. And sometimes there can be a tension between strict compliance requirements and the desire to innovate and adopt new technologies quickly.
It definitely sounds like a delicate balancing act. What are some best practices that organizations can follow to navigate the complexities of regulatory compliance and cybersecurity?
Well, a key best practice is to develop an integrated compliance framework that addresses multiple regulatory requirements in a unified and consistent way, rather than treating each one in isolation.
Okay.
Continuous monitoring and regular assessment of your compliance status are essential, along with making timely updates to your security measures as regulations change.
Right.
Leveraging automated tools for tasks like compliance monitoring, generating reports, and maintaining documentation can significantly improve efficiency. Adopting a risk-based approach helps organizations to prioritize their resources and focus on the areas that pose the greatest risk, fostering strong collaboration between the IT, legal, and business units within an organization is crucial for a comprehensive approach to compliance. Regular security awareness and training programs help to embed a culture of compliance throughout the organization. It's also vital to have robust processes in place for managing the compliance of any third-party vendors you work with. And finally, maintaining thorough documentation and ensuring you are always prepared for audits are essential for demonstrating compliance to regulators.
This has been an incredibly insightful and comprehensive deep dive into the cybersecurity landscape of 2024 and 2025 to bring everything together. Can you summarize some of the key takeaways for our listeners?
Certainly, we've seen that the costs and frequency of cyber attacks continue to rise at an alarming rate. The methods attackers are using are becoming increasingly sophisticated, as illustrated by the major data breaches we discussed. Emerging threats like AI-powered attacks and the potential of quantum computing presents significant challenges for the future.
Right.
Cloud environments, while offering many benefits, also introduce their own unique security vulnerabilities, and effectively navigating the complex world of regulatory compliance is not just a legal necessity, but a fundamental driver of strong cybersecurity practices.
And it's really clear that all of these different elements are interconnected. You can't really address one in isolation. Having a holistic understanding of the threat landscape, the technologies involved, and the ever-evolving regulatory requirements is absolutely essential for building effective defenses.
Precisely. Which brings us to our final thought for you today. Considering this rapid and continuous evolution of both cyber threats and the security measures designed to combat them, we encourage you to think about this. What is one proactive step, however small, that you could implement today that would provide the most significant long-term improvement to your security posture, whether that's for your personal digital life or for your organization? It's about looking beyond the immediate headlines and focusing on building lasting resilience in a world that is constantly changing.
Food for thought.
Indeed.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
It was my pleasure. We'll see you next time. Sounds good.